everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 4 of Berserk. And oh my god, I am living for this series right now. I'm loving it. I can't wait. I just have to keep going. I've never had the urge to binge a series like I have with Berserk. Like, usually I watch a lot of series on this channel, and I'll, I've got a schedule, and every week I have so many episodes to watch of different shows. And I'm like, well, today I'm feeling like this, today I'm feeling like that. But literally every day so far, I have felt like watching Berserk. And I know I'm not going to be able to watch an episode every day. That's just not going to be feasible. But it's really hard not to binge, y'all. And I know that I need to, not only with scheduling, but because of spoilers. So I'm glad y'all are okay with me binging this series. Because, oh my god. But yeah. The last episode, just all the character development with Casca, with Griffith, with Guts, with Corcus, Rickert, Pippin, and then the blonde that we don't have a name for yet. Just the development of their dynamic with one another and how they view one another and things being set up. And there's so much mystery still with the world building, and Guts slowly, in the one episode alone, Guts changes a lot. He develops from being a complete loner to doing something for the group and doing it for the rear guard and saving Rickert. And I don't think that Guts, prior to getting defeated by Griffith, would have done that. So that's really interesting. I'm like, okay, cool. But I'm really excited to see what this episode gives us. We're at episode 4, and this is a 24, 25 episode series. So we're still way in the early game, right? But oh, I'm excited. So yeah, I just couldn't wait. I was like, you know what? Nah, it's gotta happen. I've gotta watch it. So I'm really excited, y'all. I hope you all are too. But we are not gonna waste any more time. Hopefully my dogs are kosher during this, but we're not gonna waste any more time. We're gonna dive right into this episode and just see what it gives us. I did last night, I did create a little montage of, I did exactly what I said in the last week's discussion. I did the scene where Guts and Griffith are rolling down the hill, and I did it to the Lion King's Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And I put it in the Discord, and I was like, hey guys, here's where I'm at. And they were like, we're not surprised. So I can't wait till they get to these episodes and to hear what y'all say. So in any case, I hope y'all enjoy, but we're gonna start episode 4 of Berserk, and we're gonna do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's rock and roll. At this point, I should probably just have Whiteboard Coon out ready to be wheeled in. At this point, right? Because I freaking love this show, and I love this episode, and it just gets better and better, and I've waited all this time to watch it. So I love this episode. This episode had everything I wanted in it. It had action, it had flashbacks, it had world building, it had 2 men frolicking while one was naked, and there's absolutely no subtext at all that could possibly derive from it. Nope. Those of you that were like, there's no way Romania can ship with this series, are you crazy? If my ship for Guts and Griffith was not cemented at this point, someone in the Discord was like, I can't wait to hear what your Berserk ships are going to be. I was like, well, right now, they're Griffith and Guts, and, maybe Casca and Guts and Griffith will develop along the way. Because even though I ship a lot of BL, I'm totally open to, a Guts and Casca ship, as long as, like I said in the last reaction, it develops. I feel like the thing, though, is that this series is developing Guts and Griffith's dynamic and relationship so much that I'm like, how can I not ship them? It's, right there in front of me. They're literally handing you a silver platter being like, do you want to ship this? And I'm like, yes. So I, grab everything off of it. But this episode, so got some backstory about Guts, got some really cool world building, got some answers about Griffith maybe, got some thematic things we need to put up here on the board, and I'm just kind of floored. I'm like, wow, we're really getting a lot into Griffith and Guts and their characters in this episode. There wasn't really much with Casca and Corcus at all. I mean, Casca, we'll talk about her a little bit. She's watching from afar. And I think it's worth noting that she's watching Guts. I think that's worth noting, that she is looking at him. Corcus we didn't see at all. Pippin and the blonde with the freckles that we still don't have a name for, which bugs me to no end. I know we'll get that name at some point, but I'm like, what is your name? At this point, it has to be is this a reference to Okay, I'm gonna wave my hand, and as long as I'm waving my hand, Attack on Titan spoilers. I've got several Attack on Titan things I want to talk about in this episode, so when I'm waving my hand, it'll mean Attack on Titan spoilers. So if I forget to edit this out, if I forget to edit Attack on Titan spoilers, you'll know that as long as I'm waving my hand, spoilers. But is the freckled person with the blonde hair, is that like a vague reference to freckled Ymir from Attack on Titan? Because Ymir, freckled Ymir in Attack on Titan, we didn't know her name for like the longest time. She was just the freckled girl. And then we found out her name and it was very, very important. So I'm thinking, in the back of my mind, I'm like, so is this blonde guy that everyone else got a character introduction except him. So I'm like, is this a veiled reference to Ymir that's going to be an important name later on that we're going to be like, oh, you're important. So enough of that for now. But I'm like, we got character introductions with literally they like have their own title card and they were like, I'm Rickard, I'm Pippin, I'm Corcus. But the blonde one with the freckles we don't get. So my theory is that they're going to be important later on and they're going to be tied to like royalty or something, tied to someone important. And that name is going to be a big reveal and we're going to be like, oh, and that's going to be rather important. So I think that's why they've not named him, because why else wouldn't you? He literally stands out. And in this episode, he has a lot of interactions with Guts, and it could have been very easy for him to be like, oh, hi, so-and-so, just like he was like, oh, hi, Guts. So they could have said his name, but they don't. And it bothers me because I'm like, I feel like it's important. And my mind is like, well, just tell us his name. But I don't want to know because it seems like it's going to be important. But I'm just like, that's so random. But yeah, we don't get a lot of them. They bring about Rickard just to further emphasize like his little bond he's developing with Guts so that when he dies later, it's going to feel like a gut punch. I was like, if anything I've taken away from this series so far is that I love Griffith. Guts is intriguing, especially after this episode. And Rickard has a bajillion death flags on him, but I want to protect him anyway. So yeah, let's talk about this episode. One big thing that they keep coming back to. They keep hammering it. Like, if you have not gotten that this is going to be an important theme at this point, you need to know. But the idea that God has their hand over man. Supposedly, is that true? They say God has his hand over man. Is that true? But regardless, and I think this is rather important, regardless, man has no control over their will, they don't have their own free will. They don't have their own free will. That's the point of it. And okay, so here's the rather interesting thing about all of that, because up until now, it's been kind of the situation of, well, is it one thing or the other? Is it God controlling man, or is it man being just bound by the law? And what I think is that there is a question of, is there a higher power that is looking down over humanity? And the opening doesn't answer that question. It doesn't say yes or no. It says, maybe, it depends on what you believe. But what it is saying is that man has no control over fate as a whole. Man has no free will. And I don't think that that's necessarily meaning that God is controlling man. That's not what it's saying. What it's saying is that there will be factors beyond man's control at some point or time. There will be factors that man will not be able to control. You can't control the weather. You can't control natural occurrences. You can't control things that can mess with your fate. There are some things outside of man's control that they cannot override. But beyond that, there's the idea that the way that man has constructed society, it eliminates or restricts some freedoms of free will. And that's going to get brought back up with Griffith later on in his conversation with Guts. So I think that's important. I think that the opening, when you first see it up until this episode, it's like, oh, well, it's kind of like, themes that we've seen in other shows where is it the controlling of a higher power, or is it the controlling of man? And that's not really what this show is saying. The show is like, yeah, that's debatable, whatever you believe in. The point is, if man thinks they're going to be totally, truly free, Nuh-uh, that's not going to be a possibility because of all these other factors. And that's something that needs to be drilled in your head, is that you are not going to be in total control of your entire life and everything around you. There's going to be moments where you lose that control. And I think that's rather important to note, especially given what we find out in this episode. So I was like, okay, cool. And we get this really good recap. Like, the recap was great. I was like, oh, awesome. We just hit the beats, right? Hit the beats that we need to. And the episode's called The Hand of God, which is hovering above. Like, is it in control? The question of who is in control is a big factor in all of this episode. I'm just so kind of floored by it. The Hand of God. So we have, like, everybody's all hungover after the event, but then we have Guts, who is on the rooftop, and the freckled boy comes up. We think it's a boy. Maybe it's a boy. Maybe it's a girl. Who knows? But we have we need to note this about Guts on here. We got a lot about Guts, but Guts is always taking the high ground, right? He always takes the high ground, and that is a strategic move. Because, you know, if you're always at the top, you can see everyone down below. Nobody can ambush you if you're on top, right? Right? So, figuratively, in this case, literally. But there's also, like, a symbolic element to it, because we talk about the whole thing of Guts and the devil themes. I was like, it's not just this little leather tail. There's actually themes to it. Okay. But it's so funny because there's all this, like, symbolic devil themes with Guts' character. But at the beginning of this episode, there's this ethereal light streaming down. He's sitting above the top of the castle. It seems like a very angelic place. He's by himself. It has that kind of ethereal, angelic tone to it. And then we get all this devil imagery with him, and it's like, what do we make of that? But I like that this guy with the freckles just comes up and says, so what's your take on us? Like, you've known us for a couple days. What do you think? You think you could fit in here? Think this will be the place that you live for the rest of your days? And Guts is like, well, hell if I know. I barely know you all. He says, do you think it's the place for you? Now, when he asks him that, Guts from like 2 weeks ago would have been like, no, and been very bitter. But he is kind of like, I feel like the conversation he's having is showing that he's warming up to these characters, because he's like, oh, well, I don't know. It's a little bit more lukewarm, right? It's a little bit lukewarm, right? And we find out Guts has had experience with having a place that you thought was your own and thought was your home, and then having it completely stripped out from under you quite easily. And we'll write that up here. So I feel like Guts has a little bit of trust issues, has commitment issues, is understandable given the circumstances he grew up in. So he's got all these factors against him to where this scenario, this band, normally he'd be like, oh, absolutely not. I've been with other mercenary bands. It doesn't work out. But he says that this is different, and they all acknowledge that Griffith is the reason that it's different. It's not like ordinary mercenary bands. Everyone sincerely admires Griffith. Everyone expects great things to come from staying with Griffith. So yeah, we get this idea. I'm going to put this over here in the green. Green for Griffith, right? We're going to put Griffith in green, even though he has a red amulet here. So the idea is that everyone feels secure with him. That's what he's saying. He's like, everybody feels like our futures are safe as long as Griffith is here, because he's so reliable and he's so smart. He's like, he feels like we're going to be in a good place if we stay with Griffith, right? To sum it up, these men have gathered because of his charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. Which we'll see here in a little bit, right? It's kill or be killed, and we fight battles every day. But as strange as it sounds, we can live like normal people here. So yeah, so he says that, yeah, it's rough, and it's a live or die world, but we can be ourselves, and there's a weird sense of normalcy here. It's like thundering outside. It's like we can be ourselves and have some normalcy here. So he's basically saying, like, yeah, in this world, you know, the world's kind of messed up anyway, and it's dark and trying times, but we can, you know, be normal people here and be ourselves and find our identity, and kind of, you find your tribe, right? And they've found their tribe in this Band of the Hawk. Now, what's fascinating is that the way they present Griffith in this episode, he seems like this amazing person that's going to do all these wonderful things. And if he becomes king, it's going to be the best thing ever. But we know from episode 1 that the townspeople are like, these are dark times we live in, and everything's gotten dark since Griffith has taken over. So it's like, what happened? It's like, what went down to make things the way that they are? And I have a feeling based on this episode that we're going to find out by the end of the series that, and maybe even in the manga, but find out why things are the way that they are. But things, you know, Griffith makes it sound like once he's king, everything's going to be hunky-dory. And the townspeople in episode 1 are like, no, this is not good. So, things to think about, right? And he's like, I can't describe it, but Griffith believes in something beyond swordsmanship and tactics. It's probably beyond his reach to turn his belief into reality in one lifetime. Ah, so he says basically that whatever Griffith's goal is, he probably knows that he cannot achieve it in his life alone. That it's going to be something that he sets up as a foundation that's going to extend beyond him. Now, we don't fully know exactly what that is yet, but it seems like he's just setting up, you know, something that's going to carry on past him. And then Guts is like, what's his belief? He says he believes in everything. And he's so sincere, like the freckled boy with the eyes there. His eyes are so sincere, but he believes in everything. So, believes, and in like big letters, everything. And that kind of makes sense because the whole reason Guts asked him, he's like, why did you spare me? And Griffith says, well, it's obvious because you're a useful soldier to me. Why wouldn't I spare you? But the reality is Griffith finds use and value in everything around him. So he's not one to waste anything, which makes sense why people like Corcus are in his party and haven't been punished, because he's like, well, as long as you follow me and just, you know, keep in line, I'll keep you around. But Griffith finding use and value in everything is interesting. Being like, he doesn't believe just in himself or his band. He believes that anything can be of use. Which is interesting. And Guts is like, I don't quite understand. Now, we get Casca with the pink undershirt. I like that. I wish we could have gotten a better close-up of her in that outfit. I really wish we could have. But he's like, she comes up and she's like, hey, rookie, Griffith's calling you. And he's like, okay, see ya. Now, okay. And she's like, here, just go on this way. And then he's like, Guts, I bet you'll find it right here, the place where you belong. Famous last words, blonde, freckled-faced boy. Famous last words indeed. So here's my thing. Y'all. Casca leads him over there, right? Now, Casca leads him over, and he's like, oh, here's my thing. Y'all. Show why you baiting me like this. Because, look, I'm sure when he confronted Casca, he was not nude. I'm sure he told Casca, he's like, oh, will you go get Guts for me and have him to come here, please? And then the moment she left, he was like, dropped trowel, took his clothes off, and was like, I've got to prepare. And then Raya's Guts comes around the corner. He's like, shiboosh, and does like the flash dance like thing. But I was not expecting nude Griffith. Like, and here's the thing about Griffith in this moment. Is there a slight homoeroticism to it? Absolutely, yes. But is it also like symbolically, is it also supposed to be a symbolic moment of Griffith exposing himself literally and figuratively and showing in his version this form of vulnerability? Look, I'm just saying, I would keep Griffith warm on some cold nights. I would be fine with this. But I feel like this, yes, there is the fan service element of it for sure. But it's also a symbolic way that Griffith is literally and figuratively showing his vulnerability to Guts and saying, hey, I trust you to tell you these things and to share part of myself with you that I don't trust other people. I'm not getting nude for Corcus. I'm not getting nude for Rickert. Thank goodness. He's like, I'm not exposing myself to anyone else but you because I trust you and I value your thoughts. And so this is like a very intimate moment, and not intimate sexually or romantically. It's an intimate moment between Griffith and Guts, and him like drawing Guts in and being like, I want you in my inner circle. You in? And Guts is like, well, I guess. Also, I feel like Guts of the past would have just walked away. He'd been like, bye, and turned around and left. But here, he sticks around. I just love his face. I just love Guts is like, dude, I'm here for the chicks. You know? He's like, what are you trying to do? Trying to seduce me? And Griffith's like, oh, who, me? I love he's like, oh, hey, what, you want to join me? Like, I just don't know how'd you get here? Who got you? I was like, bitch, you had her go get him. Like, what do you say? You want to join me? And he's like, there's nothing better for a hangover. And he's like, no. I'm like, what's better for a hangover? Bathing in the nude? What are you doing? I guess you could have a cold shower, I suppose. He's like, don't be shy. This is the second time I want to make note. The second time that someone has told Guts to not be shy. The first one was Pippin in the last episode. The second time is Griffith telling him don't be shy. And Guts is like, we're not kids for crying out loud. I'm like, no, you are grown men. Now the question is, of course, Guts was 11 around the time that he killed Gambino. We found that out this episode. He was 11. So and he said, what have I been doing these last 4 years? Okay. So he was 11, so he's 15. Him and Griffith, we don't know how old Griffith is, but we know Guts is 15 around the present in this episode. And then we have the time skip, so he's 18 around the time that we will pick up episode 5. He'll be 18. He's a buff-ass 18-year-old, let me tell you that. We'll double-check those numbers. We'll double-check that. But yeah, I mean, where he's like laughing. I'm like, what a funny face. I'm like, Griffith just laughing in the nude, throwing water at him. I'm like, yes. Yep. And they just throw water all over each other, and it's really cute and fun. I'm like, this is just, it's really cutesy. It's like two boys just having a good time. You know, it's cute. I like it. And again, they're bonding and having this moment. And I love the idea that he's like, oh, awfully feisty for so early in the day. I'm like, the blonde guy with freckles is like, yeah, sure. You guys are they were just really good friends. But yeah, I feel like Griffith doesn't put down the wall in front of anybody else but Guts openly. And so it's kind of interesting how Griffith opens himself up, symbolically for Guts. It's fascinating. But yeah, and so they finally get done throwing the buckets of water at each other. And he says that was some good morning exercise. Yeah, and then he says, now we're even. Now we're even, yeah. And it's like the first time, and Griffith's like, oh, like Guts says, well, now we're even. And he kind of like laughs about it, and Griffith's like, oh, like you're showing like some compassion and affection and emotion. This is a good thing. And that's when he kind of just laughs about it. And he's like, I surrender. You're entirely too thick-headed. And he's like, oh, this. So then we get the red thing. The red thing that is like, I got it from an old fortune teller woman long ago. I don't know. Sketchy things that have eyes that open up and move that I got from a fortune teller woman. Yeah, I'd be questioning the validity of that. I'm like, that sounds super sketch. Why'd you get that, Griffith? What are you doing with that? It's the Behelit. The Behelit, yeah. So we find out a little bit about this. We'll get this on here. The Behelit, we get that back again, that he got from a fortune teller. Yeah, again, would not be taking any creepy, sketchy items from old ladies in caves, but who knows? He says, known as the Egg of the King. Yeah, okay. Which makes sense. We had the little godly hand holding it in the OP in the beginning. Yep, Egg of the King. And we know that there's more than one because the Fief Lord had one. It was green. So I'm like, is there like a rainbow of them? That there's a whole one for each color? Once you possess it, you're destined to rule the world. So, get this right. If you have it, you are destined to rule the world. But there is a price to be paid in exchange for your flesh and blood. But your flesh and blood. So that's a bit sketch. So question is, how is it, it has a little mouth. So is it consuming like flesh and blood from Griffith? Is it like sucking his blood? Is it eating part of him? Is it consuming him? It didn't say in exchange for flesh and blood. It said in exchange for your flesh and blood. So it's like consuming the host, and in return they get to rule the world. Okay. All right, for how long do they get to rule the world, right? And I like that Guts is like, Guts says rule the world. I'd be like, your flesh and blood. I'd be like, the rule the world part makes sense. The flesh and blood part, I'd be like, elaborate, please. And then he says, catch it. Now, when it opens up his eye to look at Guts, the eye is blue, the exact same blue as Griffith's. So my question is, and obviously I don't want any answers to confirm or deconfirm yet, but did Griffith, were his eyes always that blue that they are? Or did this behelit make his eyes blue? Or is the creature slowly consuming Griffith to the point where it's gaining like his eye color and gaining things about him? We don't know that, but that's like, but now Guts has one. Guts has one of these things now. So is he going to rule the world in exchange for flesh and blood? We don't know. But it's super creepy. Yeah, I like the Guts is like, no, it's creepy. And then Griffith says, I don't know how it works though. Look, Griffith, you're a talented guy. You're a strategist. You're a prodigy level strategic mastermind when it comes to the battlefield. Are you lying to us? Are you lying to Guts that you don't know how it works? Or are you just really trusting? Because I'd be like, if I was told by a sketchy fortune teller woman that this thing will let me rule the world in exchange for my flesh and blood, and I didn't know how it worked, and it had an eye that could open up and look back at me, like hell I'd be wearing that day to day. I'd be like, I need to do some research before I decide to take this on. So either he's, for some reason, really trusting of this object and believes the magic and has drank the Kool-Aid, or he's lying to Guts and he knows exactly how it works. He just doesn't want to tell him about it. Yeah, sure. He's like, it looks alive, doesn't it? And he's like, it's creepy. Yeah. And he says, isn't it fascinating? I like that, yeah. So we have the idea that Guts, he views the behelit as creepy. And then Griffith barks back that it's fascinating. Like immediately, like immediate laughter. And Guts is just like, fascinating. So I do think that there's something to that too, in the idea that Griffith, things that people view in a negative aspect, Griffith views in a positive aspect. So that's something else as well. There's this idea that something that can be viewed negatively can also be viewed from the other side. And Griffith kind of exhibits that to Guts, and Guts is kind of fascinated by that, because when he says, isn't it interesting, Guts is kind of like, wow, I didn't think that something I could view so negatively, you could find a way to spin it that way, but you did. So it's interesting, right? And then he's like, I didn't hear your answer yet. He's like, why did you come back to help me during battle? And of course, Griffith, throws out, well, I didn't want to lose an outstanding warrior like you in such a trivial battle. He's like, I put so much work in to get you, right? He's like, why would I? And that's when he stands up. And he says, Guts, you should come along with me. Now we've only taken a step. He's like, we're on the way. He's like, we're going to go into a battle that will risk our lives for it and a bigger future. Man, when he turns around, though, he's like, I will have my own kingdom. And it's like, they cut that shadow real good. They did that editing on that shadow to censor his junk really good in that moment. Do I make that the thumbnail? I might have to make it the thumbnail. That might need to happen. It might need to happen. I don't know. There's a lot of moments with Guts' past that might be in there too, but I'm just like, okay, I'll have my own kingdom. Yeah, okay. He's like, and you must fight for me because you belong to me. So that's the thing. He says, Griffith is like, he's like, I will have my kingdom, and Guts will fight with me because he is mine. Yeah, I mean, there's, you know, it all sounds really great. Like, oh, come on, Guts, you just come with me and we'll rule the galaxy together. But there is a little bit of possession there. There's a little bit of shade of Griffith saying, you belong to me, so whether you like it or not, like, let's be best friends, let's be chums, but at the end of the day, you're going to fight for me because I control you, because I won our duel, right? Remember that? So Griffith frames it in a way that it doesn't seem like a bad thing. It seems almost like, oh, what a great thing for us to work together. But there is an underlying possession there that's interesting, right? And again, Griffith has showed us he can be cold. He doesn't have any qualms with dislocating shoulders and doing whatever it takes to get what he wants. He's like, I will have what I want. And yeah, it's fun that we frolic in the nude and everything, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna be the one in charge. And it's like, huh. And meanwhile, Guts is just kind of blinded by him. He's like, I will choose the place where you will die for me. And the way he phrases that, it's just like, oh, it's meant to sound like ethereal and romantic, but the underline is like, oh shit, no, he is fully in control, right? He says, I will choose where you die for me. He's like, I will choose where you die for me. Like, you don't have any say in this. I'm going to do it. But, you know, why don't we have fun along the way? You know, that's basically what he's saying. And so it's so easy to be enamored by him and enraptured by Griffith. But Griffith is out for Griffith things. And from this episode, you can tell he's like, he wants Guts to be on board because he knows Guts' potential. He knows how Guts is strong and can be used. But the funny thing is, we don't know if he's telling the truth to Guts. It seems like he's manipulating Guts to get close to him. And he very much is framing it as, you're kind of thick-headed, you're kind of straightforward, so I'm just going to say this straightforward, but what I'm really saying is, I own your ass, and I'll decide what happens to it. And it's like, huh. And everybody else kind of plays their part in this, because they're all respectful and enamored with Griffith just as well. But it's so easy to be enraptured by him, right? It's so easy. And then we see Guts just kind of mulling it over, and they're going to go take on a kingdom. And he's like, they're all really strong and they got 1,000 more men than us, but we'll make it work, right? We got this, guys. Because what does he say here? Like, Guts is thinking he'll have his own kingdom. He says he's not nobility, he's not royalty, he's not a knight. There's only like 500 or so of us. He's like, how could he be a king? He's like, but he talks as if it's his right. So yeah, it seems like that whatever this thing is, it has made, this Behelit has made Griffith confident in his fate. And, you know, confidence is key. So maybe that's all Griffith really thinks he needs. It's like, if I'm confident enough, I can fake it till I make it. And I've got this little talisman thing, so let's do it. Let's go. And it's working for him so far, right? Even Guts is kind of questioning it. Because he's like, the enemy number's about 1,000. Okay. He's like, they're twice the size of us, but we're going to do these flanks and go into battle. And Guts is like, he just acts like he's so confident. Like, he's like, the enemy outnumbers us, but we just go in like we can't lose. And then we have the flashback. And then we have the flashback with Guts. Little baby Guts. Mm-hmm. And Gambino, give me my spear. Be quick about it. What I love about this series so far, and the reason why it's so fun to binge, is because we are getting, you know, just a few episodes ago, I was like, I want to know about Gambino. I want to know about his backstory. And the show is just like, here you go. Here's your answers. We're going to connect these things instantly. And I'm like, yes, please. Thank you. Let's do that. So we get Gambino and Guts seeing a dead body, and he's like, don't be so damn slow. Do you want to get me killed? And then we show, and Guts is having this flashback as he's like fighting through all the troops, thinking about Gambino and looking at him sword fighting, right? And so we come to understand why Guts has the sword that's as big as him. It's almost like a tribute to Gambino, right? And his raising. Because Guts was raised by Gambino. And I like the line that there were no kid-sized swords. Like, Guts was raised with a sword that was always bigger than him because that's just how the mercenary band was. And he just got used to it. It almost became like a tribute to Gambino to keep that big sword. Like, it was almost like representing his training from a young age, right? And Gambino definitely gives off, like, okay, more Attack on Titan spoilers. But Gambino definitely gives off Kenny vibes. I know I said it in the reaction, but it gives off Levi and Kenny vibes of him, like, finding Guts and raising him from a young age. There's a little bit of vibes there between Gambino and Guts with Kenny and Levi. Just a wee bit, right? But he has this, like, pseudo father figure role. But we find out quite a lot about Guts in this. Yes. We find out a lot. They say, you thick-headed brat. Yeah, he's always been kind of thick-headed, right? And then Gambino kicks him aside and says, we don't carry any swords for kids here anyway. And they say, is it true the kid was born from a corpse? And they say, yeah, Gambino's wife, Shisu, found him. She found him, and that's a sign of bad luck. And it was his fault Shisu died. So, we get some info about Guts. That he was, quote-unquote, born from a corpse. And Gambino's wife found him and died. And it was a bad omen. Yeah, okay. So instantly when I saw the born from a corpse thing, like basically found like this woman was pregnant and like he was taken from the corpse, the first thing that I thought of was Game of Thrones, like the very first episode of Game of Thrones. So it's not really a spoiler, it happens in the very first episode. But the family is like going through the woods and they find this wolf out in the field, and the wolf has been like rammed into its side by a stag, and so the mother wolf is dead, and there's all these baby cubs like nursing off of her, and they're like, oh, it's a sign of bad luck, but the kids take the wolf cubs anyway to raise them, right? Even though it's a bad omen. But that's instantly what I thought of. I was like, oh yeah, cool. So that's just tying back to the dire wolves in Game of Thrones. That's kind of cool. And then we see wolves later on, and I was like, oh, ghost, cool, awesome, nice. But yeah, so it's a bad omen, and his wife dies. And so, you know, we don't get to see the wife die, so we don't know if she told Gambino, if she was like, you need to raise this kid as your own if something happens to me, and he kept, because it's like, if at the time you really felt that Guts was responsible for your wife's death, why didn't you just kill him then? Why didn't you just get it done then? But he probably thought, no, my wife didn't die because of Guts. It's just something that happened, but she took him in from that corpse. I'm going to keep raising him, in Shisu's memory. And then he gets injured and it kind of all falls to hell. But yeah, they're like, oh, it's his fault Shisu died. And again, we tie back to this idea that he should have died instead. He should have died. So that's the first inkling. It's like, well, he should have died instead of Shisu. She died when it should have been him, right? That's red flag number one. And then poor little Guts. Like, he's just trying his hardest to find a way to fit in to that crowd. So him using that sword, this poor kid, he can't survive on his own. The only thing he can do is try to fit in with his band of mercenaries who all think that he's bad luck. So he just has to prove himself. So he's constantly in this state of proving himself and finding a place to belong. That's like a constant with him. He's constantly trying to find a place to belong and finding some kind of identity. And as a kid, he doesn't really get that opportunity. So we cut back to him in the present, killing these soldiers. He's like, it's only when I wielded this, I didn't have to think about anything else. And that's the thing too. We're going to go back and tie it all to swords. But the idea, I'm going to put it up here, of Guts with the sword, wielding, he can forget everything else. Which says a lot because he has that sword a lot and kills a lot. So he's in this constant state of running away from his problems, right? By using the sword, which, you know, is something that's somewhat relatable. And so then we go back to, you know, he's in the same clothes he's in for the first episode. And you see Gambino say, it's your first battle, work hard. Like, you can tell Gambino's developed this, like, father-son relationship with Guts, but he doesn't want to cut Guts any slack because he wants Guts to be strong. Again, like Kenny and Levi. But yeah. And then we show them in battle, and he, like, nearly gets killed, but he kills, like, his first soldier, and then Gambino saves him from dying and says, don't just sit around there and wait to die. Just because you took one man down, don't act like an idiot, right? And so then we see Guts going and getting the prize money. And the funny thing is, the first time he goes and gets the prize money, it's obvious that Gambino sent him to go get it instead of just standing in line himself. He just had Guts go stand in line, being like, well, you go do it, right? And then when he takes it back to Gambino, Gambino gives him 1 coin. It's like, that's all you get. And that ties back to, you know, the second episode where we see him counting the coins one by one, you know, having them all to himself. I was fully prepared for Gambino to bite into one to see if it was real or not, and then give it to him, but we didn't get that. So then he says, keep it up. And of course Guts is like, well, yes. So again, there's almost this like father-son relationship between the two of them, and that's when Gambino is injured. And man, the symbolism of going back to that scene, in the scene with the dog and him nude there, right? Where they're all stripped bare and showing their vulnerability and showing who they really are, right? Is what it's supposed to represent. Like Griffith standing naked in front of Guts is supposed to show Guts who he really is. Now, whether that's true or not, we'll see. But the thing with the dog, and he's like, go get some meat for the dog. Like, it's almost like Gambino's like, this dog needs to eat. Like, he's helpless like I am. Go get him some food. Why are you just thinking of the money? Like almost chiding Guts for it. But, I mean, there's a whole thing with Gambino being injured and losing his identity. I mean, you can relate it to a lot of veterans from war who come back injured and they feel like they can't do anything. Like they've been stuck in this battlefield for how many years and then suddenly they don't know what to do with themselves. Like there's that. But there's also, Guts said whenever he wielded a sword, he could forget where he was and he found purpose and some form of identity through it. Well, now that Gambino can't do it because he's injured, it's like that identity has been taken away from him. And that's a trope that we see in a lot of stories, but it's effective here. It's a tried and true trope, and it works because it's like, oh my God, because he gets mad. He says, he's got it good. And I think what makes it worse is the fact that the other guys are like, oh, he's got it good like Gambino. We should all just get injured so we have to just sit back in this chair and not do anything. And you know that pisses off Gambino because he's like, I don't want to be here doing this. I don't have a choice. So it's fascinating, right? To just see him get so upset. And he's like, what the hell did you say? And that's when he gets mad at Guts. And he blames Guts for it. And he said, this is all your fault. He's like, Shisu, who found you, dropped dead instead. Meaning she got sick. And now I'm in this miserable condition. This is like a joke. He's like, what do you have against me? And Guts is like, he's like, you return good with evil. And Guts is like, I didn't do anything. I'm just here, right? He's like, Gambino, he says, you are the son of the devil, a doomed child raised under an evil sign. You were the one who deserved to die on that day 11 years ago beneath your mother's body. Oh my God. So there's like all the corpses hanging in the tree, which is an image from the OP, right? Or it was from the beginning of the series, one of the two. Yeah, the image that she... So basically he was born, you know, under the hanging tree from the corpse, right? Supposedly the son of the devil. So yeah, he has this bad omen. And there's this idea that he only brings misfortune. With that, not to get into any spoilers, but the bringing misfortune and ill deeds instead of good, no matter what he tries, I instantly thought of a character from Heaven Official's Blessing who wears red. I just instantly thought of that character, you know, the idea of misfortune and born under an ominous star. Had some flashbacks to that protagonist. So I was like, yeah, that's great. But yeah, just the idea It's like, it's you who should have died. You should have died. And again, we have the idea that that goes back to his vision with Gambino of all the skeletons coming after him. So it's not necessarily at this point, it's not necessarily all of the dead that wish that upon him, but it definitely connects back to it, right? And then to defend himself, Guts takes up the sword and stabs Gambino in the heart. And then all the guys come in and he lights the thing on fire, and when he gets in, they all shoot him with in the shoulder with the arrow, or it's like right under his shoulders. What's fascinating is where they shoot him with the arrow is like either the same spot that Griffith pierces when they dueled the first time, or it's on the opposite side but in the same location. That's so fascinating. That's the way that that was placed. And they tumbled down the cliff onto like the stony, like frozen water, right? Or maybe it's just like a sea of glass. It's beautiful. I love him just looking up at the moon. Yeah, okay, so where he was pierced, you can see it now. He was pierced like on this side here with the arrow, and then Griffith pierces him on the other side. Fascinating. But yeah, he runs into the wolves. And it's the idea that he offers himself up to be killed. He offers himself up to be killed by the wolves, but then in the end, his body like instinctively won't let him die. And again, that's like human condition. Like your body is conditioned to go into survival mode. And Griffith is like, and Guts has been like, I've been in survival mode the last 4 years. So we get the idea. Yeah, so he's 15. So he's 15 in episodes 2 through 4. And then now he's basically going to be 18. The most buff 18-year-old you've ever seen, but we'll take it. He fully matures into an 18-year-old, right? Great. They're not little kids anymore now. They're going to be adults from here on in. But yeah, so he basically is like, what have I been doing the last 4 years? Like, I've been just wandering like a ghost. Where do I want to go? Guts is like, what do I want to do? What is my goal in life? And he realizes he doesn't really have one. He's just been in survival mode this entire time and hasn't found a place yet. And so that's kind of where the blonde freckled-faced boy was like, oh, you'll find your place here. We all have. He implies that like we've all kind of been in a similar situation as you. We didn't know where we fit in, and here's where we are under Griffith. So I don't know, right? But he's like, where do I want to go? Where? And then we see them like in the battlefield where Griffith, he's like, oh, you're still alive, Guts. And he pulls him out. You have the devil's own luck no matter what you do. Again, there's some really creepy like ties to the devil and ties to misfortune. It's interesting. Like fate and everything, what have you. And then he's like, on the battlefield, a soldier's life is worth no more than a silver coin. As if it were nothing. Most men's lives are controlled by a handful of nobles and royalty. So here we get into this theme here, where Griffith says, here's the problem with the system. The system is that there's a few nobility. There's a few nobility controlling everyone else. And he says that people become expendable. He's like, people become expendable because the noble control, because these handful of people control everything else. And Griffith doesn't seem to like that. He says even a king is really unable to live his life as he pleases. And I am glad that Griffith brings this up. I was going to talk about this in the reaction. I am glad that he brings this up. That he goes, well, even a king is unable to live his life as he pleases. Exactly. So Griffith acknowledges that even a king has limited control. He's like, even if I were king, I wouldn't be able to do exactly as I please. He's like, there would be a limit even if I could control other people. So I'm glad he acknowledges this. And so he tells Guts, he's like, we're all just surrendering to the flow known as fate. And then we fade away. So he says that we surrender to fate and fade. He's like, our lives oftentimes don't have meaning because we can't escape fate. We end up just succumbing to it and we don't leave a mark in the world. Our lives are squandered and we don't know who we are, which is where Guts is right now. Guts is in that exact same boat. And he's like, a lot of times people just waste their lives away and they don't leave a mark on the world. And Guts is kind of feeling that same way. He's like, there must be a man who's born with the leverage to change the world. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because he says that there must be, as it storms outside, a man to change the world. Griffith, this is so fascinating. You would think that at this point when he says that, because my narrative, minded mind would think, oh, well, Guts is going to be the person because he's our main protagonist. He's going to be the one born to change the world. Now, is that going to be to change the world positively or negatively? We'll see. But you would think that with Guts, that since he's the protagonist, it's referring to him. What I was expecting to happen was for Griffith to say that he is the one to change the world, right? The moment he brings this up. But he doesn't say that. He says, regardless of social status or class, the man be part of the world's true privileged class and could have the power of a god. So he basically says that there's a man who could rule regardless of status. Now, would I think Guts would ever rule anything? No. So then at that point I was like, okay, well, Griffith is referring to himself. Griffith may have come from nothing, but because he got this behelit, he's like, oh, I will have the power to change the world and rise up from being a nobody to being someone that rules and has the power of a literal god without having to have any like nobility or royal bloodlines. But he doesn't say that. He says, I must know what my status really is in this world. I love that, because that is Griffith not saying that he is going to be king, that he is the destined one. What he's saying is he wants to know his place and status himself. He wants to know, what does the world have planned for me? He says, we don't have control over everything, but I want to have control of as much as I can and know what my fate is. Like, what is my status truly in this world? What is my highest potential? Where do I max out at? That's what he's asking, right? And that's so fascinating, because I love that. I love that he's not just automatically saying he's going to be he says he wants his kingdom. He wants to be a king, but he's not outright saying that he is saying it's his birthright, but he's not like going full Light Yagami and saying I'm going to be a god. He's just saying, I want to know what's my full potential. Can I be a king or not? Not I'm going to be, but what is it? So that's so fascinating to me. And he's like, what has been preordained for me in this life? He's like, yeah, he's like, because I feel like for Griffith, he says, my free will is me doing the most that I can to get to the highest potential that the world has in place for me. He's acknowledging that, yeah, there's a preordained fate for me, but I don't know what it is yet. And I want to max out whatever that is. I don't want to choose the easy ending. I want to choose the hard ending, right? He wants to max out as hard as he can get and see what the rewards are going to be. And that's fascinating, right? He kind of has the same goal that Guts does. He wants to know what his purpose in life is and where to go, but he has more of an idea of how he's going to get there. Whereas Guts is just kind of like, I don't really know what to do or how to get there. So I'm going to follow Griffith until I find my way. And he's like, it's strange. I've never told this to anyone before, only you. I'm like, couples goals, like just, like why would you only tell Guts? This person you have a deep, intimate connection with. Can't imagine why. He's like, all those years of us like bathing in the nude have paid off. And then we have like, Guts likes to reflect. Guts likes to stand on top of things and reflect. That's like his main MO, because he's standing on top of this little tower on this little drawbridge and he's reflecting. And I'm like, dude, I would have sat on that drawbridge. I wouldn't have been standing, especially with a door behind me that could easily surprise me, because Rickert got your goat. But look at him. He's like, I just wanted to congratulate you, mister. And I'm like, oh, Rickert, you sweet summer bean. And then, okay, also, Attack on Titan spoilers. Did anybody else, was it just me, or did anybody else get the reference? Because I know Rickert looks like Armin. Rickert looks like Armin a lot. But the moment that Rickert lings his hand down and Guts grabs it and he lifts him up, was anybody else thinking of the moment that Armin back in season 2 reaches his hand down, or I guess it'd be season 3. He reaches his hand down in season 3 part 1, and Eren grabs the hand and is lifted up. Like, did anybody else think of that moment? I thought of that moment. And I was like, oh, Isayama, have you watched Berserk? I'm sure you have. But yeah, I was just like, But yeah, little Rickard, he's so cute and innocent. You've become one of us for real, because he's been promoted to a raid commander. And again, showing how much Guts has changed. Guts in the past, when he first stumbled across the Band of the Hawk, Guts of the past would have like slapped the hand away and been like, I don't want to talk to you, Rickard, you little bug. But now he's like, just call me Guts. Like he's warmed up to them in his own way, right? He's warmed up to them and accepts the hand. And Rickard's got some strength. He tries to pull him up, and then of course Pippin knocks him down. But then Casca's been watching him the whole time. I do think it's important to note that Casca's watching, right? So again, if we're gonna develop Casca getting some kind of romantic attachment to Guts, I'm still kind of like, you two need to talk. But if we're gonna set that up, you're doing a good job, showing that she's at least been paying attention to Guts. She's not been ignoring him this whole time. She's been watching him like grow on with the crew, but she's keeping a distance. She's keeping a distance because I think that she is still wary of Guts. I think that's still definitely the case. But then we have this narration that man has shielded the tiny wounds in his heart by picking up a sword. Yeah, so it's like a man he's hidden behind vulnerability. He's hidden behind showing and exposing his wounds and the more like deeper sides of him by shielding himself with a sword. I'll just fight off anybody that tries to get close to me, and then I won't have to worry about exposing myself. A tale as old as time. Right? In days yet to come, beyond one's distant hopes. Like in the days to come, as we lead towards Griffith's goals, man will wield a sword so that he may smile upon his journey. So, in other words, we have this idea of the sword not only shielding from vulnerability, but giving way to their own sense of freedom and control. Because when you're happy, you're usually happy because, you know, the situation is favorable to you. And in this world, things will be favorable to you if you're in control of the situation. So, yeah, the sword is going to be a mean of keeping that freedom and control. Like in this world where only the strong survive. Supposedly, right? And then we see that a kingdom in the west and an empire in the east. The war between Midland and Tudor, which is like doing like an alternate reality with the Tudor dynasty and all that. That's fun. That lasted 100 years. And so the Band of the Hawk fought for the Grim Reapers fought for the Midlands, and 3 years passed. And then we see our crew, right? We see Guts has gotten swole. He's gotten all beefed up. He's gained all this muscle mass. And then we see the beautiful, like, big cape of the White Hawk Griffith. The White Hawk Griffith. The Grim Reapers of the battlefield leading the charge. I do like the one noble guy. His, like, horses decked out in all the armor, right? So, yeah! Oh, there's so much with this episode. But, yeah, Guts being this ominous star, Casca being wary of him, Griffith is like, are we best friends? Can I tell you my dream and show you how I'm going to use you to accomplish that dream? You're okay with that, right? And then, yeah, and getting all sorts of world building here. So, These Behelits are really sketchy, though. They're super sketch. I don't know. I feel like Guts is not telling us, I feel like Griffith is not telling us something about them. Griffith is holding some information out to the side. I feel like he's holding back a little bit, and I'm like, what are we doing? So, we'll see though, right? So, I talked for nearly an hour about this episode, but it was definitely worth it. Lots of themes set up, lots of fun times, but I'm excited to see now that we're back in the somewhat present. We're 3 years in the future, and it's thundering outside. So, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Please stay safe, take care, And I'll be back next time with episode 5 of Berserk. Bye!